it's Sam with a quick update about the current astrology. I know we've had pretty intense few weeks lately with, we had that shooting in D.C., we had the Kenyan hostage crisis over the weekend. There's been a lot of tension, of course, around Syria, the international news with Syria and their chemical weapons and the Russians and the U.S., sort of Cold War rhetoric. Recently there was this impending U.S. budget battle and the referendum on Obamacare again and the filibuster in the Senate and this whole kind of, there has been so much polarity and so much polarizing and so much even sort of like violence and whatnot. Yet since Mercury moved into Libra a couple days ago on Tuesday, we've actually seen a lot of ease around many of those situations. For instance, we've seen a little more trust around the Putin-Syria question. Just recently, Bill Clinton came out talking about how he trusted Vladimir Putin when he had to engage with him, and there's been several other sort of positive events around that question, not the least of which is the UN is going back in to gather more information. That's a tricky situation, but at least it seems to be moving forward towards a more positive end rather than just being so politicized. What had been all of the rhetoric for the last couple weeks was, who had gotten the best of it and how, Putin was really playing the U.S. And, I think Senator John McCain came out and wrote a really aggressive piece in a Russian newspaper to kind of counteract Putin's piece that he wrote for the New York Times. And, so there was this sort of polarizing energy. It seems to be moving forward now. Of course, it's only been a couple days, but also we've seen more cooperation in the Senate. Even the last couple of days, where they voted, I think, like 100-0 to move forward on a vote on the current budget and, to overcome this obstacle that was holding everything up. Now, there's still going to be a lot of rhetoric around Obamacare and all of that stuff with the budget, but the thing is that unanimously they sort of voted to not go down that course of total obstructionism. I think the Republicans in the Congress realize that it's just probably not a good strategy at this point. Also, in a few other interesting bits of news, the new Iranian president was just elected and he seems to be much more of a moderate. There was a moderate that was elected back in I think it was the mid-'80s, but he was the president of Iran, but he still had to answer to the Ayatollahs and all of that, so he couldn't do anything. But this current president of Iran is much more moderate, and there's probably a good possibility of relations easing with a moderate at the head of Iran, and he's come out, very sort of candidly expressing, appeals for friendship and things like that, and there doesn't seem to be this big backlash in Iran over it. I think these situations are really, wearying on everyone, and he's talked about, bringing the nuclear issue to the table. Again, it's very early to tell, but all of these things have happened since Mercury went into Libra on Tuesday, and I was talking about how I think it could be great for diplomacy, at least a good sign. So let's see how those things play out, but there's already good signs for that. Something that really was surprising to me is former President Bush, not W, but George Bush the First, even was a witness at a same-sex marriage over the weekend. We got this news on Wednesday, which is pretty amazing. I mean, hardline Republican president. He's actually always been quite moderate, but he still represents the old Republican Guard, witnesses a same-sex marriage, which is pretty unusual and not what you would expect. But again, this kind of tolerance is seen when we have all these planets in Libra, and especially because Mercury also went into Libra. There was also a surprising bit of news that there was a lawsuit filed by the online yoga site called Yoga Glow, trying to patent their technique of filming yoga classes, and they filed a lawsuit against another website called Yoga International. It's really funny. I I was a columnist for Yoga International. I wrote for their magazine a few times. If you get issues from a few years ago, I have some articles in there, which surprised me. But they've changed their format. They're a really good publication. They're actually run by the Himalayan Institute. So Yoga Glow, this website, sued them, filed a lawsuit against them to stop their online videos because of the way Yoga Glow has patented their camera angles. It's really stupid, frankly. And the community at Yoga Glow has really voiced their displeasure with that decision. So I have a feeling that that might be rescinded. This is my feeling. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, which is really also quite important now, is Venus in Libra is moving up to an exact trine and square with Mars. On September 26th, Jupiter and Venus are going to be in an exact trine. That's Thursday, September 26th. They'll be, the trine will perfect. Venus will hit the exact trine with Jupiter on September 26th. And then on September 28th, it's going to hit the exact square with Mars, which is the exact Mars aspect. So again, this is, between now and then, and even a few days later, but the 26, 27, 28, 29 or so, there's going to be big changes around, your style of relating, what you want from relationships. Let's say perhaps your style of diplomacy, your feeling of being appreciated and whatnot, because Venus is moving, as I say, right into a trinal aspect with Jupiter and that square with Mars. And those are planetary aspects. They're not just trines and squares like they use in Western astrology, but Jupiter casts an active aspect in the trines, and Mars casts an active aspect on that waxing square. So these are special planetary aspects, one-way aspects from Jupiter to Venus, and then from Mars to Venus. So this is why you might see some things around litigation and around legal things, and also some dynamic in the relationship. Definitely could be a time where relationships could change with all those planets in Libra. We now broke the Kala Sarpa Yoga. Venus is outside of it, and it's going to get that exact aspect from Mars. Mars influences on Venus or on anything that has to do with relationships, like Mars going through the 7th house, even Mars coming into the 1st house, because that's the relationship axis. Mars aspecting Venus, whether it's in the sky or in a natal chart or whatever. Mars-Venus coming together like that often shows where relationship issues have to get worked out, where we have to clarify compromise and individuation. And so these are big themes right now. Doesn't necessarily mean romantic relationships, but in your, all sort of relationships with adults in your life. I just wanted to also let you know, in case you don't realize, my book project is going really well, and I'd love you to pre-order the book in advance and get great information about Vedic astrology and spiritual unfoldment. So let me know what you think of this. Leave a comment below, share it with others. And the other thing is, order a copy of my book in advance. You're going to really want this book. It's going to help you understand your life as an embodied spiritual being and how that's related to astrology. And it also take you deeper into your practice if you're already a practicing astrologer. Just pre-order it now, and it'll help me really make the book as best as it can be. You can see the Indiegogo project that I have here as well on the page. So thanks a lot.